All right, we're recording. Ladies and gentlemen, it is great to see you. Let's welcome everybody formally. Donna, welcome. Joy, welcome. Matt, welcome. Sandrine, welcome. Ray, welcome. It's nice to have y'all over here. I love it. It's like our daily Power Parsha group. It's not like our daily Power Parsha group. It is our daily Power Parsha group, and it's so great to be with you. All right, so I am going to share my screen with you right about now. And today is Tuesday, which means we're going to explore the third reading. All right, here we go. It's a short reading. We'll do a few insights and maybe some general insights, and then we will have a good understanding of what's going on in the story. If you recall, the Torah portion opened up by discussing the marriage of last week's Torah portion was about the marriage of Isaac and Rebekah, how they met. This week's Torah portion begins with them struggling to have children, her getting pregnant, and having a struggle while being pregnant and finding out she has twins, but not just twins, but opposites. These are very complicated twins, even in utero. Like I explained yesterday, though, it's not that one was good, one was bad. Because how could we say that somebody is born already bad? That's not fair. And that takes away free choice. So the way it's understood in Jewish philosophy and Kabbalah and all the good books is that God didn't take away the free choice of Esav, of Esau. God didn't take away that free choice. God didn't make Jacob, for that matter, a tzaddik, a righteous person, and take away his free choice for the opposite of good. Rather, each had a different personality. One had a more mild personality, one had a more wild personality. And then they chose what to do with it. You could have a mild manner, and again, I said this yesterday, but just to kind of like get us started, you could have a very mild-mannered person who follows the rule, who follows orders, and who follows negative orders, evil orders. You could have that. And conversely, you could have somebody who is very wild and passionate, who creates a lot of positive change in the world. That was their respective personalities, and what they chose to do with them was their choice. So we read about the pregnancy, we read about the birth, they're very different, and then we read about how, as they came of age, they really diverged. One went to the field, hunting, and hunting, as our sages say, was not just animals, but it was also people and women in a very negative way, and deception. And the other, Jacob, that was Esau, and Jacob went to the tent of Torah study. Okay. So, and then we also read about the story about the lentils, right? Esau comes home one day. It's the day that Abraham passed away after the funeral. And Esau sells the birthright to Jacob in return for the food. Now the Torah moves away from the kids, the twins, and focuses on Isaac himself. And you'll soon realize, I'll point it out now, so you'll definitely realize that of the three patriarchs, we know the least about Isaac. We know very, very little about patriarch number 2, Isaac. We know a lot about Abraham. We know a lot about Jacob. We know very little about Isaac. I mean, what do we know about Isaac so far? His mother couldn't have children. She was finally blessed with a child. They named him Yitzchak. What do we know about him? Nothing yet. We know that when it came time for him to get married, his father sent someone else to find him a wife. Are you with me on what's going on here? We don't know about him. We know things happen to him and around him, but what does he do? Well, he prayed for a child, and then he has a kid. He loves one of them, probably both, but mentions one. But what's he like? What does he do? Here, finally, in reading number 3 of Toldot, this week's Torah portion, you get a little bit of clarity, a little bit of insight into what his avodah, what his service was. Take a look, Genesis chapter 26, verse 13. And the man became, we also know yesterday, if you recall, that they went to Gerar, there was a famine in the land. Remember we had that at the end? There was a famine in the land, and he and his wife went to Gerar and Abimelech, and he said that she's my sister. And then the king Abimelech saw that they were being mitzachek, they were acting like a married couple, and he said, you should have told me something. You could have gotten us all killed. All right. So that takes us to this reading about the life and times of Isaac. Very little, but it's very telling. And the man became great, and he grew constantly greater until he had grown very great. You might notice the word great is used 3 times in this verse. In the Hebrew, vayigdal ha'ish, he was great. Vayelech haloch v'gadel, became greater. Ad ki gadal ma'od, 3 times. Vayigdal, v'gadel, and gadal. 3 times the word great is used. He was great. He was getting greater, and he became even greater. Let's go 14. And by the way, let's see if Rashi comments on this. Oh, wow. Look at Rashi. What a quote. The people would say, rather the manure of Isaac's mules than Abimelech's silver and gold. You can understand that as you wish. Nonetheless, it means that even his mule's manure was greater than Abimelech's, who was the king, his gold and silver. I guess he was wealthy and prominent and respected, etc. He was great. Verse 14, and he had possessions of sheep and possessions of cattle and much production, and the Philistines envied him. Now, if you recall, the king of the Philistines is this Abimelech guy who had he had formed a covenant with Abraham. A few weeks ago, we read about the covenant of the parts, not the covenant of the parts, the covenant between Abraham and Abimelech, where Abimelech says, I respect you. I want to be at peace with you. So I'm not going to harm you. You're not going to harm me, us and our children, for the long term. What's happening here, though, is that although that covenant was made, the Philistines are envying the greatness and the success and the wealth of Isaac. Take a look at how that manifests. Verse 15, and all the wells that his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham, his father. So in other words, the wells that Isaac's father's servants, Abraham's servants, had dug in the days of Abraham, the Philistines stopped them up and filled them with earth. Talk about jealousy. They took the wells and they filled them with earth. It's not nice. And Abimelech said to Isaac, the king says to the son, right, to Isaac, who's a man at this point, go away from us, for you have become much stronger than we. Right? It's not healthy. It's not healthy to be here because you're too big. So go somewhere else. And Isaac went away from there, verse 17, and he encamped in the valley of Gerar and dwelt there. And Isaac again dug the wells of water which they had dug in the days of his father Abraham, and the Philistines had stopped them up after Abraham's death, and he gave them names like the names that his father had given them. In verse 18, we read something interesting, that Isaac went and redug all of the wells that his father or his father's servants had dug that had been stopped up by the Philistines after Abraham passed away. So Isaac undug or redug those wells and called them by the same names that his father had called them. Let's continue. And Isaac's servants dug in the valley, and they found there a well of living waters. That was a new well. So number 1, verse 18, he dug up the old wells. Now we have a new well. They found the well of living water. That means a well that's a natural spring, natural source. Verse 20, and the shepherds of Gerar, the locals, quarreled with Isaac's shepherds, saying, the water is ours. So he named the well Asek. Why Asek? Because in Hebrew, Asek means contention. Because they had contended, his asku, with him. In other words, he named the well of contention, the well of strife, the well of conflict, the well of fighting, because they were fighting over the well. And they dug another well, the servants of Isaac did. They dug another well, and they quarreled about it also with the locals. So he named it Sitna. Sitna also means animosity, negativity, anger. Finally, he dug a third well, And he moved away from there, finally got to another location, and he dug another well number 3. And they did not quarrel over this one. So he named it Rechovot. By the way, I was born in Israel in a city called Rechovot, as some of you may know. So he named this well, that's where the name comes from. He named this well Rechovot Rehoboth. And he said, what does Rechovot mean? It means broad or wide. And he said, for now the Lord has made room for us, and we will be fruitful in the land. In other words, in the Hebrew, hirchiv, Hashem lanu frinu ba'aretz, God has widened the space for us, and we will be fruitful. So until now, until this third well, there was contention and fighting and conflict and animosity and anger and negativity between the locals and between Isaac. And finally, there's peace. And so Isaac says, a blessing. Now there's room for us. They're giving us room, or God has given us room to exist and to live. You should know, reading number 4, which is tomorrow's reading. Okay, well, we'll deal with the reading, tomorrow's reading tomorrow, and we have, of course, our in-person DPP. It's going to be a little bit chilly. I checked the weather, so make sure you wear a jacket or coat. And order from Spicy Peach today or tomorrow morning. So, but here's the point: we know very little about Isaac, his life and times. I mean, Abraham lives a glorious life. Abraham finds God at the age of 3 and fights for God and is thrown into a furnace and is ready to give up his life, and then travels at God's behest, and then, has a tent that's open on all sides. We discussed this the last few weeks. Abraham is a legend. Jacob, we're not up to his story yet, but it's several portions, and there's a lot of drama. Isaac, this is what we got. You're not going to find anything else. He was born, he was named, he was bound as an offering, he was found a wife for, and he dug wells. That's it. He dug, and he never left Israel. And he didn't close the blinds, apparently, as we saw yesterday, right? That's what we know about Isaac. So I said this yesterday. I'll say it again to reinforce it and maybe to go a little bit deeper. Abraham represents chesed, which is giving. Isaac represents gvura, which is withholding. But there's another message about chesed and gvura, giving and withholding, that maybe is not obvious. Giving implies, I don't like the status quo, I'm going to change it. You with me on that? It's like the current is not great. I'm going to give something new. I'm going to change it. Gvura is an exercise within self. Chesed is, again, chesed and gvura can be understood in many different ways. I'm giving you a new way of understanding it. When I say new than a different way than what we typically, than the way we typically discuss it. Chesed is, I'm going to give you just very, very simply, and then I'm going to elaborate. Chesed is imposing change, and gevura is discovering inner beauty. Chesed says, it's broken, let's fix it. And gevura says, let's make it work. There's a difference. It's kind of like the difference between the 6 days of the week and Shabbat. 6 days a week we work. And the theme of the 6 work days is the world is not the way it needs to be. We need to fix it. We need to improve it. We need to refine it. We need to bring holiness into it. We need to change it. We need to work. Work is change. We need to change things for the better. On Shabbat, we don't work. You know why? Because we appreciate the beauty that's already there. We appreciate the inner beauty of the world. And we don't say, I need to fix it. We say, let's uncover the inner beauty, the inner divinity that's inside. There's 2 perspectives on this world. One is, it's a material world and we need to bring in divine energy into it. The other perspective is, on the surface, it looks materialistic, but dig deep and you'll find those spiritual waters. They just need to be brought to the surface. Are you with me in this explanation? Yeah. So Abraham is all about teaching. He's all about giving new information, impressing new ideas upon people that don't have those ideas. He's all about creating change. And Isaac, he digs wells. And what does it mean to dig a well? It means, what's the message? What's the theme of digging a well? We're not bringing the water to a place that doesn't have it. We're demonstrating that the place that seems like it had no water had the water the whole time. There's water inside. Isaac is the deep work. Isaac is the mentor. Isaac is the mentor who teaches you about your own gifts. Not the teacher who gives you their own ideas and then you run with those ideas, right? Not the teacher who gives you something new, but the mentor who helps you discover who you really are inside. That's Isaac. It's more introverted. It's more inner work. It's quieter work. It's the inner work. It's not the loud work. Avraham Avinu, our forefather, is loud. Not in a bad way. Only in a good way. He's loud. He makes a lot of noise in a good way. He teaches. He's moving and shaking. It's creating change. Wherever he goes, creating change. Isaac stays in one place. But in that place, he uncovers the beauty. It's kind of also likened to masculine and feminine approaches. And again, when I say masculine and feminine, I don't mean men and women, right? Just in general, and Kabbalah has a notion of a masculine energy and a feminine energy. For example, the 6 days of the week are masculine energy, correspond to the six sphere, the six emotive energies, and Shabbat corresponds to Malchut, the seventh and final emotive energy. There's 3 intellectual and then 7 emotional. So the first 6 are the more masculine. The last one is the more feminine, which is Malchut. Leadership is a feminine quality. What is the true definition of Malchut, of leadership? It's not imposing from without, but it's cultivating the beauty from within. A true leader is someone who can help someone discover their own truth, their own path, not someone who tells someone else what to do. That's not true leadership. That's dictatorship. That's not leadership. That's a dictator, not a king. In our heads, because of corruption in human beings, sometimes we think it's the same thing. But it's not. In Kabbalah, it's not. So what's the point? 6 days a week, we're changing the world. On Shabbat, we embrace it as it is. What's the expression in English? What's the expression? It's we stop and smell the roses, something like that. Instead of running and trampling on the roses, because we're bringing in, something else that's nice, we say, wait a second, what am I stepping on? It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place. Let's stop and smell the roses. It's more the feminine approach. Again, not necessarily men and women, but the masculine approach is change, right? We got to change it. It's no good the way it is. We got to fix it. And the feminine approach is the beauty inside, the inner beauty. It's deeper work. It's more internal work. It's deeper. It's actually harder. Sometimes it's harder to find the inner beauty than it is to change it. That's the way it is. So so what's the bottom line? Isaac lived his life. We don't know much about what he did, other than most of the things happened to him. By the way, even the deception that happens later on with the blessings, not to jump too far ahead, right? He wants to bless his older son and the younger son takes it. That's again a story that happens to him. He's deceived by his son. I mean, he gives a blessing, but the main part of the story is, oh my gosh, Jacob tricked his father. What does he do? Not in response to that, but what's Isaac's life driven by? Well digging. He was a well digger, as you see in this reading. He dug wells. He undug his father's wells. He dug his own wells. He contended with those who wanted to cover up the well or claim the wells for their own, whatever it was. He was a well digger. What does that mean for us? Discover the beauty inside. We don't always have to change things. We can also appreciate what's already there. This world we often look at as a broken world, a dark world, and we have to bring light into it. Maybe on a deeper level, it's not only about bringing light into the world, but it's about uncovering the godliness that's already here. It's about uncovering the beauty that's already there. It's harder. It's easier to try to change someone and tell them what's wrong with them and then change it, right? Impose it, as opposed to finding their core beauty and helping them uncover that. That's the work of digging the well, and that's the work of all of us. We need both. We come from all the patriarchs and the matriarchs, so we have elements of all of them inside of us. We have chesed and gvura, but we shouldn't overlook gvura and what it means spiritually, the inner work. So some days, some moments of the day are chesed, got to change something, but very often, and an important piece of it are our Isaac times, our Isaac moments, to dig inside and to discover the water that's beneath the surface. It says that this corresponds to the avodah of prayer. Abraham certainly also prayed, but specifically prayer is likened to Isaac, because prayer is a very introverted, it's an internal experience. It's digging deep and finding a connection. One of the hardest activities, Jewish practices that exists, is prayer. It's very easy to get distracted. It's very easy just to feel disconnected or just to say words and not really know what's going on. It's hard because it's hard to dig deep. It's hard. It's easier to repaint. It's easier to put another coat of paint on top of something than to really work with that thing. And so the message of Isaac and the digging of wells, according to Kabbalah and Hasidic philosophy, is the inner work. It's less glamorous, but it's no less important. Make sense? Yes? All right. So let's dig those wells, but not on your neighbor's property. No need for that conflict. It's like, I wanted you to discover your inner beauty. I'm just saying they may wonder why their front yard is dug up, and then you're going to blame me, and it's going to be a whole thing. So you can dig, not even literally. We have to dig inside, but it also affects the way we look at others. Do we look at others as projects that need to be fixed? Or do we look at people and discover the beauty inside? But it starts with how we view ourselves. It all starts with our internal perspective. If we view ourselves as holy and beautiful inside, just it needs to be brought to the surface, we're more likely to view the other one that way. That's what it means to love your fellow as yourself. Just like you know that notwithstanding what things look like on the surface, you're really a good person. Give your fellow the same benefit of the doubt. Because too often we look at ourselves the way we are inside and the other the way they are on the outside, right? Don't we do that sometimes? Like for me, it's not a problem. But for you, it's a problem. The same thing. It's a problem. It's like the mother who talks about her two kids. She has a son and a daughter. And she's talking to her friend. So how are your kids? So she says, my son, his wife really puts him through the ringer. She sits at home all day. She doesn't do anything. She nags him. She wants. He's running to make her happy. It's no good. And how's your daughter? It's amazing. Her husband takes care of her. She doesn't have to do anything. He loves her. He treats her like a queen. See what I mean? Yeah. So often we look at, because anything could be a positive or negative. It depends on how we view it. So for us, and for, when we choose to, it could be a great thing. But for the other, they got to fix it. Let's dig deep within ourselves and realize the inner beauty, and then we can apply it to someone else. All right, that's it for this short reading. And I want to share one major insight, and that is it for me. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? No pressure. That's it? Wait, hold on. I can't hear you. That's it? Oh.
It's a quiet day.
It's a quiet day. Yeah, it's cold today.
As
Man,
you
how
said,
cold is it outside?
it's harder to
Risk.
it's harder to to accept someone the way they are than wanting to change them.
It's so much harder to accept someone the way they are. Think about kids, right? It's like kid, we have a certain picture of the way our kids should be. And then if they're not like that, it's like, oh, we have to change them. So much harder to really embrace them for who they are, to help them achieve their own individual space. But that's what it means to dig a well. Anyway, Matt, is it cool?
I'm from South Florida originally, so I've never learned how to handle cold. So to most people, this is probably fine, but
Right.
I'm a little bit cold.
You're freezing. Okay, I want to say this. I want to share this.
I would be freezing too. I'm from Montgomery, Alabama. I'm always freezing.
So I want to say this. I'm from Pittsburgh, and I'm also freezing because I'm used to this now. You know. I mean, if it's really cold for a while, I get used to it. But like this, I'm not complaining. By the way, I'm looking outside now. Also here, it's gorgeous outside. I'm sunny and blue, so no complaints. All right. So listen, life is about digging wells. It's about uncovering the beauty. It's not always about change. We live in a world where when something's, everything has a very finite shelf life, then we change it out for something else, right? We rarely dig deep. We discard. We don't dig deep. And we replace it with something else. That's more of the chesed approach. Again, it's different than the way I don't know if it's different, but it's not necessarily the same way we usually explain chesed and gvura, giving, withholding. It's all connected ultimately, if you really think about it, but it's a different way of conceptualizing it. The point is, the whole culture of, what's the word I'm looking for? Recycling, upcycling, renewal, right? Kind of like repurposing. That's the Isaac energy. It's digging deep and finding new utility, finding the beauty inside.
Rabbi, we might see more of it now going forward. When we think about how our lives and the world will adapt new ways of doing, once this COVID is behind us. And I follow the fashion industry. And yeah, they're getting away even more now from fast fashion and disposable, and wanting people to have, just embrace what they have and appreciate, and not always have to go for the next big thing.
Yeah, that's very important. I will say also, you just triggered a thought in my head, a memory of the teaching. It says, and I forget where it says this, I think it's somewhere in the vast body of Jewish scripture, of like Tanakh. It says that when Mashiach comes in the Messianic era, we're going to say specifically to Isaac, of the three patriarchs, you are our father. Isaac, we're going to say you are our father. In other words, obviously all three are connected with Judaism, and obviously. But when it comes to the concept of Mashiach, when it comes to the concept of the energy of the Messianic era, there's something connected specifically with Isaac, and we can understand that when Mashiach comes, we're going to be focused on not fixing things, but bringing out the inner beauty, or discovering, finally seeing how beautiful this world really is, uncovering the hand of the artist that created this. That's really what Mashiach is about. Not about imposing something new or swapping something out or whatever it is. It's about discovering the depth, and it's harder. That's the work. So today in 2020, on some level, you and I are also Isaacs. We are well diggers. So grab your shovel and get to work. We all have to grab our shovels and get to work in digging inside and digging within someone else. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's easy to discount and dismiss and to say, you need to be fixed. So much harder to really dig and to find the beauty. But just because it's hard doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. That's our task. All right, great to see you all. It's great to study together. A very quick announcement for those that are part of the JLI course, Secrets of the Bible. So this course right here, we're doing it tonight and Thursday, tonight online, Thursday in person. And the topic is Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat as you've never seen it before. So that is the exploration this week. There are a few new things, or at least one new thing on the website. It's a secret. You may notice it. It's I just put it up this morning. Haven't advertised it yet, but we're getting there. So check that out. We have a few other things that are going to be put out this week. So stay tuned and join us because there's a lot of digging to do in a good way. All right. See y'all soon. Have a wonderful day. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. I
Bye,
won't
bye.
see you tomorrow. I have a conference, but Thursday.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Coming tomorrow in person.
Awesome. Good. All right. Make sure they have your food.
Enjoy.
All right. See
And
you.
my wine glass.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And the wine.
All right. Yes. L'chaim. All right. We'll see you. Take care.
That's great. Thank
See you
you.
tomorrow.